It had witnessed the sails of Samuel de Champlain's ship and heard the cannons of the American Revolution. For centuries, it has lurked in the dark, 400 feet below the surface of Lake Champlain, an unsettling legend that clings to the spine of North America. It is the Lake Champlain Monster, a mysterious creature said to have a long neck, a humped back, and grayish-brown skin, bearing an uncanny resemblance to a prehistoric plesiosaur. On July 5, 1977, Sandra Mancy was enjoying a family gathering by Lake Champlain when she snapped a photo of her loved ones. But when the photo was developed, a chill ran down her spine. In the frame, rising from the calm surface of the lake, was a strange, long-necked creature. Its head tilted slightly, as if staring straight toward the people on shore. That image, later known as the Mancy photograph, became the most famous piece of evidence for the existence of the Lake Champlain Monster, igniting a debate that continues to this day over whether the creature is real or just a myth. The mystery of Lake Champlain's history goes back long before European settlers arrived in the Americas. To geologists, Lake Champlain is a relic from the ancient Ice Age. Over 10,000 years ago, when glaciers melted, water filled the basin that remained, forming one of the largest freshwater lakes in eastern North America. Stretching 193 kilometers long, 23 kilometers wide, and plunging to depths of up to 122 meters. But to the native Abenaki people, Lake Champlain was never just a natural body of water. It was a boundary, a line separating the human world from the spirit world of the waters. Guarding that boundary was a massive, serpent-like creature they called Tatascock. In English, the name roughly translates to grandfather of the waters. Around the campfire, village elders would often tell children stories about Tatascock. They described it as a giant serpent with 4 short legs, its skin shifting colors to blend with the lake's waters. Most of the time, it stayed hidden in deep underwater caves, only surfacing to breathe under the light of the full moon. But if anyone dared to fish on forbidden nights or polluted the lake by throwing waste into it, Tatascock would become enraged. It would stir up giant waves, overturn fishing boats, and ensure that those who broke the taboo would never find their way home again. The most famous legend about Tatascock in Abenaki lore took place in the early 17th century. A young man named Owassa refused to believe the stories about the lake monster. Determined to prove everyone wrong, he decided to go fishing in the northern part of the lake on the night of the full moon. His grandfather desperately tried to stop him, warning, "That is Tatascock's territory. You'll bring misfortune upon yourself." But Owassa wouldn't listen. He set out alone, paddling his canoe into the misty waters, a fishing net by his side. That very night, someone from the tribe was walking along the lakeshore when they noticed Owassa's canoe drifting silently on the water. His fishing net was floating nearby, but there was no sign of him anywhere. 3 days later, people found him on the rocks by the lake. He was curled up behind a boulder, his lips purple, his eyes vacant. He kept muttering over and over, "Its eyes, they glow." It kept staring at me. After that night, Owassa never spoke a full sentence again, nor did he ever dare to go near the lake. Every day, he just sat at the entrance of his tent, staring blankly in the direction of the water. 6 months later, he fell gravely ill and passed away. From that time on, no one in the Abenaki tribe dared to fish in the lake during a full moon. In fact, no one even dared to approach the northern part of the lake on those nights, afraid that disturbing Tatascock would bring punishment upon themselves. The legend was passed down from generation to generation, until the day European ships sailed into Lake Champlain. In July of 1609, French explorer Samuel de Champlain and his 12 crew members sailed into the lake for the first time aboard their vessel, the Hector. The purpose of Champlain's expedition was to find a route to the Pacific Ocean, but what he recorded in his travel journal that summer would become a source of debate for more than 400 years. On July 29th, Champlain wrote in his diary, "The weather was clear and the water calm. We sailed along the lakeshore when suddenly one of my men pointed to the right side of the ship and shouted. We all turned to look and saw a massive creature rising from the water. Its body was as thick as a barrel, over 20 feet long, with the head of a wild boar and eyes as large as plates, glowing red. Champlain immediately ordered his men to ready their muskets, intending to shoot the creature blocking their way. But just as the men took aim, the monster lashed its tail with incredible force. The lake erupted with waves more than 2 meters high, rocking the Hector violently from side to side, nearly capsizing it. When the water finally settled, the creature was gone. All that remained was a long, rippling trail on the surface, spreading wider and wider until it vanished into the depths of the lake. This account was later preserved in France's National Archives under the Chronicles of New France Expeditions, becoming the earliest written record of the Lake Champlain Monster. But from the very beginning, many questioned its authenticity. Some claim Champlain fabricated the story to impress the French king and secure more funding for his explorations. Others believed he might have mistaken a giant lake sturgeon or even a crocodile for some kind of monster. Yet the local Abenaki people had a different explanation. They insisted that the creature Champlain saw was none other than Tataskok. The colonists simply didn't understand its origin and called it a monster. And interestingly, the area Champlain described in his journal, the northern part of Lake Champlain, was precisely what the Abenaki considered sacred and forbidden ground. It was the very place where Tataskok was said to appear, where the waters dropped to depths of over 100 meters and underwater caves and hidden reefs abound. A perfect natural hiding place for the legendary guardian of the lake. Today, no one truly knows whether the lake monster recorded in Champlain's journal was real or not. But ever since that entry, the legend of the Lake Champlain Monster transformed from a native oral tale into a written mystery that continues to haunt the pages of history. By the early 20th century, as Lake Champlain became a hub for shipping and tourism, reports of monster sightings began to surge. On June 15, 2002, a businessman from Plattsburgh, New York, named George Clark, took his wife and 2 children out for a picnic on a small boat in Lake Champlain. Around 3 p.m., Clark's wife suddenly screamed and pointed toward the distant water. Clark looked up and saw it. About 150 meters away, a long neck was slowly rising from the surface of the lake. At the top was a small head, shaped like a swan's, only much larger. Its neck was dark gray, with rough, wrinkled skin clearly visible even from afar. Stranger still, 2 distinct fins protruded from its back, rising and falling gently with its movements, like small hills gliding through the water. The creature didn't attack. It simply stayed still, staring silently at the Clark family. After about 5 minutes, it slowly lowered its neck beneath the surface, its dorsal fins disappearing one after another. The lake returned to perfect calm, leaving behind no ripples, almost as if it had never been there at all. Clark's story made front-page headlines, and the entire city of Plattsburgh erupted with excitement. Over the next month, dozens of people claimed they too had seen the Lake Champlain Monster. Some fishermen reported seeing a long-necked creature swim beneath their nets, tearing a huge hole before devouring all the fish inside. A local priest said he saw a massive dark shadow gliding under the water while walking by the lake, at least 10 meters long. And a 12-year-old girl claimed she saw the monster rise above the surface with a huge fish in its mouth, a fish longer than she was tall. Many of these witnesses described similar features: a long neck, dark gray skin, fins on its back, and glowing eyes. But there were also discrepancies. Some said its neck was 3 meters long, others swore it was 5. Some described its body as cylindrical, while others insisted it was flat. As public fascination with the Lake Champlain Monster spiraled further into wild speculation, a joint scientific investigation was launched, an acoustic ecology research project funded by several universities in the northeastern United States. Officially, the project's goal was to map Lake Champlain's ecological soundscape using high-precision sonar and bioacoustic sensors. But behind the scenes, the team had another mission, one assigned by the government, to uncover the truth behind the Lake Champlain Monster once and for all. On July 14, 2003, the team's white research vessel slowly departed from the shore. The expedition was led by Dr. Alan Bolton, a bioacoustics expert and a staunch rationalist who scoffed at all talk of lake monsters. That day, the lake was shrouded in fog, and the air pressure was unusually low. As the ship reached the northern center of the lake, the sonar probe was lowered carefully into the depths, about 100 meters down. Soon the instruments began their routine scans. On the monitor, neat green sonar waves appeared, indicating everything was normal, until 4:17 p.m., when the probe suddenly spiked. Anomalous echoes flashed across the screen. The signal had an unusually long cycle and a slow, rhythmic pattern, clearly biological in nature. Dr. Bolton's assistant, Steve, immediately called him over. Bolton glanced at the data, unimpressed, and suggested it was probably just a large school of fish. But only minutes later, the signal appeared again, closer and stronger this time. Through the underwater microphone, a deep sound began to emerge. From the ship's speaker came a low, resonant thoom, thoom, like the slow, heavy breathing of something enormous beneath the surface. The sound lasted for 47 seconds, then suddenly stopped. At that moment, the entire cabin fell silent. Dr. Bolton immediately ordered the sound to be amplified, filtered for background noise, and played back. When the playback ended, every technician on board went pale. That sound was definitely not coming from a school of fish, nor was it interference from any underwater equipment. Its rhythm resembled the breathing pattern of a whale, but the frequency was deeper, longer, and lower, almost touching the sonar's detection limit. But whales couldn't possibly be here. Lake Champlain is a closed freshwater lake with no direct waterway connected to the Atlantic Ocean. There's no way a whale or any marine mammal could exist in these waters. Dr. Bolton, now visibly stunned, ran multiple diagnostics on the instruments, suspecting equipment malfunction. Yet after a thorough check, every device was confirmed to be operating perfectly. Then between 4:17 and 4:19 that same afternoon, the signal returned, 3 more times. Each interval was roughly 10 seconds apart, just like the steady rhythm of breathing or a heartbeat. Every time the signal appeared, Dr. Bolton deployed an underwater camera, but all the footage came back pitch black. Only faint beams of light revealed swirling water currents, like something enormous had just moved past, disappearing into the darkness. When the research team finally returned to shore, the audio recording was sent to the National Bioacoustics Laboratory for analysis. Experts there confirmed that the signal was indeed of biological origin, but it didn't match any known freshwater species. The waveform cycle, frequency, and echo layers all pointed to a massive organism, something with lungs or an internal air sac system. In the end, the report could only classify the sound as an unknown bioacoustic signal. After the incident, theories spread like wildfire. Some claimed the Lake Champlain Monster was actually a surviving plesiosaur, an ancient marine reptile trapped in the lake since the Ice Age. Others argued it might be a giant mutant eel, since eels already inhabit the lake. Perhaps one grew abnormally large and was mistaken for a monster. But there were also far stranger theories, people saying the creature wasn't biological at all, but something supernatural, the very spirit of the lake itself. To this day, no one has been able to prove any of these explanations right or wrong. The Lake Champlain Monster remains like a shadow, hidden beneath the surface, woven into legends, and buried deep within humanity's imagination of the unknown.